So Invader Zim, enter the Florpus. This is it's interesting because unlike Rocco's Modern Life Static Cling, that revival film, this film more or less seems to bring us right back to where we left off with Invader Zim. Like the characters have not aged. They're more or less kind of in the same spot where they were before, except it seems like a little bit of time might have passed in between there. So for those who have never seen the show is essentially about this misfit alien Zim who has come to Earth and plans to conquer it, but he's not too good at it. But aiming to stop him is Dib, who is a alien obsessed kid who is also a social misfit and aims to prove that Zim is an alien and be recognized, I guess, for it. And aiding Zim is his dumb little robot called Gur. And Gur is essentially just says random stuff for the heck of it. Now, Enter the Florpus. It's interesting. This film kind of feels like it could have been released like 10 years ago or even 15 years ago. Like it could have been released like immediately after the original series, and there wouldn't be much of a difference. It would be acceptable. In fact, I'm almost surprised that they didn't try for a theatrical release of this, because I believe it's I think it's pretty close to like feature length. It's about 71 minutes. Because this does feel very much like kind of like when Nickelodeon would do like the Rugrats movie or the SpongeBob movie. This feels like the type of movie you would kind of put in theaters based on its plotting. So essentially, the story is that after much hiding, like apparently Zim's been hiding in a toilet and Dib's been hiding in his room for a few months, I guess. I'm not sure how much time has passed here, but Zim has devised kind of a new plan to to finally not so much destroy Earth but get noticed by his superiors, because the superiors hate him. They essentially sent him off to Earth as like an errand just to get rid of him. They know he won't conquer Earth. They're just giving him stuff to do. But then Zim decides that, well, what if I bring the planet to them? Then they can't ignore me. What if I do that? And so Zim devises this idea to basically transport Earth in direct line with the Urkins, which is his alien race. It devises to put the planet right in front of the Urkin Armada, because apparently the Armada only flies in one straight line, so he can predict exactly where they're going to go. And while doing so, he also opens a black hole, or a Florpus, if you will, that will apparently swallow up all planets and make them merge dimensions. And so Dib has to be the one who has to save the day here, and Zim is more or less pretty much the antagonist that he was in the show, the goofy antagonist, more or less. This show, it plays on, like, similar to Rocco's Modern Life Static Cling. It does play on a lot of the nostalgia. A lot of familiar characters do pop up here. A lot of familiar gags do pop up here. The humor is still just as weird and surreal as it was in the show. It's all there, and there's even a little bit of commentary in there. Like this commentary, however, is a little bit more subtle, where you could still play this still play it to kids, because obviously the main characters are still kids; they're not grown up. So this plays a little bit more to them. Like clearly, the Urkin Armada, who are meant to go, never stray from their course, are just like the maintained course type folks who are stuck in their ways. Obviously, you can derive from that what you will. But it's mostly just the surreal adventure type stuff we've come to expect from Zim. There's some great stylized animation here. So, some astounding animation. In fact, it actually begins with kind of like an anime style opening, and as the show goes on, they actually experiment with some different types of mediums when they get to the climax here, which I actually kind of appreciated. But for the most part, it's somewhat of a standard, save the world type plot that you might expect from from a cartoon that's adapted into a big screen adaptation. Which is not to say that it's bad. Some of the humor still holds up, but again, it just kind of feels like it kind of feels like it's just like more of the same. Like there wasn't anything that really caught me that much off guard here. There's a lot of like familiar bits of dialogue and mannerisms, like, oh, that's kind of cute to see that again. But for the most part, it feels like just like another episode of Zim, which I guess is the best thing to say about the film, and the worst thing to say about it is that it more or less kind of like sticks to like the status quo. It doesn't really do a lot of creepy stuff. Like that was actually kind of one of the things that I was hoping the film would do, that the original show would do here and there, was that it would deal with some creepy things that would happen at times. Like I remember one episode I particularly loved was when Zim removed someone's eyes and replaced them with these weird implants. And it didn't end with him like putting the eyes back. That kid stuck with those implants. So there was, and it would get into like some weird surreal territory. Like I loved one episode where Dib was caught in a hologram that he didn't know about, where he believed that he, stopped the Urkins and defeated their entire armada. That was kind of cool. There's nothing quite that bizarre in Invader Zim. It feels fairly par for the course. I mean, there is a few aspects they explore here. I love the fact that they explore a little bit more of Dib's association with his father, Professor Membrane, who always kind of seemed very distant. Here, they kind of address their relationship as, their dad isn't listening, and Dib really wants to prove himself to his father. They focus just enough on that, where it doesn't feel like it's hammered in too hard, because it wasn't in the show. So it feels like it's just bringing enough emotional investment in the characters so that we kind of care how this will all play out. Even though a lot of this adventure plays out in the most random of ways. It's like Gur's humor all pretty much comes from nowhere. It's obsession with puppies, obsession with pizza, just making random songs. Like he makes songs about like peace with the lyrics like chicken and rice. It's standard Gur. I do appreciate it. It feels very much like what I expected the Invader Zim film to be for a revival film. And I mean, I'll be honest, like I wasn't a huge fan of Invader Zim. I love the design of it. I love that they maintain that kind of like angular design of the characters, and that kind of like that cell shaded computer graphic effect that they have over like spaceships and robots and stuff like that. All that stuff is so cool, and the soundtrack with like the pounding steel on the soundtrack is pretty awesome. And it feels pretty much how I expected an Invader Zim film to play out. Nothing much more than that. It's I mean, for fans of the show, I think it's definitely going to resonate for them. I think they're really going to love this film, especially since it does develop a little bit more on the characters here. But if you've never been that big a fan of the show, and I'd even say if you've never quite seen that, you might be able to grasp most of this. But there's a lot of in-jokes from the show here. But I don't know. It's a dark comedy animated series. I just wish it was just a little bit darker. Just took a little bit more chances here, because this feels fairly safe, as though, and maybe this is the plan, but that they could just jump into more Invader Zim episodes after this. So maybe they will. Who knows? But for Invader Zim, Enter the Florpus, 3.5 out of 5 stars.